The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Quiet Professional. Today, we are going to be talking about the other side of the mic, which is emergency services dispatch, the stresses of the job, and the lasting impacts. For that, I've got Deborah Green in the studio. Deb began her law enforcement career in 1986 with the California Army National Guard as a communications specialist and later as a military police officer. In 1992, she joined the Sacramento Police Department as a dispatcher and then worked as a dispatcher for the El Dorado County Sheriff's Department. In 2021, after being diagnosed with PTSD and cPTSD due to a critical incident involving the loss of a deputy's life, Deb retired. She now advocates for better mental health care for first responders. And, well, as we were saying offline, she's done a lot of podcasts. So welcome, Deb. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your advocacy.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is great. I appreciate you.
Hey, you know
Just
what?
getting my word out, getting the word
Yeah,
out.
I'm glad we could connect. And yeah, as I was saying before, thank you for reaching out. And I think we'll have a really interesting discussion. It was good timing because someone in my work had kind of suggested some topics in this realm of things. And as I was saying, they weren't looking to come on the show. People don't want to get in trouble or anything. So I was like, hey, I got the perfect person in mind. So thank you for being here.
Yes, nobody signs my paycheck anymore.
Yeah, you have no masters to answer to.
That's
Uh,
right.
you know what? Let's just start real briefly talking about you. And I gave a little bit of the background, but if you could let people know why or how you got into dispatching.
I think it was a fluke. To be honest with you, I started out, like you said, in the National Guard, went in as a communications specialist, and my job skill was to repair radio telephones. So I don't know if you remember the old field phones where you cranked it and it had a
Hmm.
wire and went to the. So I had that and a switchboard. If you can imagine, I don't know if you're old enough, but Lily Tomlin on Laugh-In, the show, and she played an
No.
operator. And so, yeah, it was like an old-fashioned operator. You take the thing and you put it in the thing to hook people up, and it
Oh, like
was
it's got the board with the
little
plugs on it.
plugs in the
Yeah.
board. And so that's basically how I started my career as a telephone operator, I guess you would say. So then I became a military police officer, and in 1992, both of my National Guard and my civilian life kind of crossed paths. I was in the academy for Sacramento Police Department, and I got deployed to Los Angeles for the LA riots.
Oh, wow.
So I was I had to stop my academy. My classmates still continued on, but I went to LA to help with that, which was rather interesting.
Hmm.
When you're in the army, you expect to go to overseas and go against, enemies foreign. You don't necessarily look at what's going on domestically. So that was kind
Yeah.
of interesting. Um, Not quite what's going on now, but we just went in to keep the peace. We didn't go in to do anything else.
So were
Um,
you kind of on the front lines of that? Like you were watching some of this
Kind
stuff
of, yeah. We were
unfold?
escorting, our unit was escorting fire engines to their calls and making sure that they weren't getting shot at. It was a really rough time down there.
Mm.
We went into Long Beach to kind of secure that, and there was a working fire on every block. Um, so the looting and the rioting was just so spread out through the Los Angeles area. It was quite amazing. So then I got out of the National Guard just after that, so a couple months after that, and continued my career as a dispatcher, which somebody suggests I had been trying to get in as a law enforcement officer. But somebody said, "Hey, why don't you go into dispatch?" And I'm going, "Okay, we'll try it. What the heck?" And
Yeah.
here I am 29 years later.
Wow. Um, well, one of the things, I was mentioning in that you jump from one police service to another, and this was actually one of
Right.
the questions I had from somebody outside that they wanted to kind of compare and contrast the differences between a larger service and a smaller service.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and my own experience. So right now, I work for a larger service. I'm in Edmonton. Our service is about 2,000 sworn members. I think it's about 1,000 civilian
Wow.
members.
Yeah.
And before that, I worked with the RCMP in a smaller city.
Hmm.
So I want to say it was about 30,000 people. But certainly the difference in resources available to you at any given time on the street was far different, and we had
Hmm.
much smaller squads working. So what you lacked in calls, you kind of made up for in just lack of resources and other people to take calls. So
Right.
you might only get 10 calls a night, but you're going to three or four of them. Same within the city, though. You might get 100 calls, but because there's so many other people and officers, you might only have to go to three or four still. So it's kind of different. But I was
Oh, it
wondering,
is
like,
very much so.
from the other side of the mic, what is that like for somebody in dispatch?
So when I was at Sacramento, they had dedicated radio dispatchers and dedicated phone dispatchers. So basically, in a nutshell, dispatching is you take in a phone call, you enter in a call for service into the computer, getting as much information as you can, and then the radio operator takes that call and dispatches a unit. That's it in a nutshell.
So to clarify for people, it's kind of, I guess how we do it now, or what we call it is there's an evaluator. Call comes in, goes to an
Mhm.
evaluator. They type everything in, and then they bounce it to like another side of this room or area, and that's the dispatchers who talk to the cops on the front line.
Right.
Okay.
So that's, just in a nutshell, that's how it kind of progresses through. With Sacramento Police Department, there were four radio dispatchers and a supervisor in that
Hmm.
section, and 8 to 12, depending on what shift, call takers and a supervisor. And then we also had the fire side. So there were three or four dispatchers over there doing the fire dispatch.
Hmm.
So we're all in the same room. So all the call takers would take a call, and it depended on whether it went to fire or law enforcement. So it was quite a big center, very busy. In comparison, our busiest night at my second agency was the slowest night at Sacramento.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I could see that. I was trying to
So it
picture it in
was,
my mind when I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So it was just, I went to a slower paced agency that had, when I started there, um, we had four radio dispatchers, three for law enforcement, one for fire, and one call taker. But everybody
Oh.
did double duty. So if the phones were ringing off the hook, the radio dispatchers were taking the phone calls also.
So
So
you'd
it
be
was
cross-trained, like you would know how to dispatch fire trucks, right? Because you have to know specific
um
engines to send
c-
out.
correct. So but before I finished even training, we split, and I didn't have to do the fire dispatch. They went to another agency to do that. So
Okay.
we just kept the law enforcement where we were at. So I never had to dispatch fire, but watching them was always fun to watch because and this is back in the 90s, so we still had the push buttons on the consoles, and you had to push which agency to light up their the siren alarms at
Like
the
alarm for them, yeah.
station. And and Sunday mornings we had an all call, which you would have to, it was testing all of them. So we'd just go
Mm.
through and test everybody, which was fun.
Can you describe like, you were saying the busiest night at the smaller agency would be the slowest night. So that would be the slowest night in Sacramento.
Right.
And can you just talk a bit about the call volume when you're at the larger agency and the type of maybe downtime you may or may not get and
Yeah,
what it's
more
like?
may not.
Yeah.
Not much downtime. I took so I did one night and I kind of was like very curious how many calls I took. Actually entered, not actually answered.
Yeah,
So
because even that's different.
that's it. So you have to kind of add 50% onto that too, how many you're putting in. So I actually entered 100 calls for service during an 8-hour shift.
Holy.
So we're talking 10 or 12 calls an hour, maybe a little bit more than that,
Wow.
maybe closer to 15 an hour. And I mean, and there's not much time in between, and when you figure there's 8 other people sitting with you doing the same thing.
Hmm.
So that's a lot of call volume and not a lot of time in between. So you're going from, oh my gosh, I was my first 911 call was a suicide. So, you're going from that type of call to somebody needing directions to somewhere, or the little kid calling on 911, playing with the phone, or, you don't have much time to prepare for that next call because you don't know what it is. And so you can't really get relaxed or process anything because you're just literally on to that next call.
So you're always kind of like at the like some sort of critical threshold, right?
Oh
You're
gosh,
just
yeah.
you're
You're
amped
like
up
way
through
up
it.
here. you know
Yeah.
you're not allowed to decompress. And at that time back in the 90s, nobody thought about mental health.
Hmm.
So it was more like if you went home and cried, there was something wrong with you, or at least that's the way you felt. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why am I crying? Why am I getting frustrated? Why am I so upset about this? I shouldn't. It's just a phone call, and that's how it was made to feel. And then um, the if you can't handle it, find another job was
Yeah.
always, we call it, I don't know if you do, but it's called the suck it up buttercup
I've heard the
attitude.
term before, yes.
So, you just kind of keep going and you kind of shove everything back and, just keep going and don't worry about it and try not to deal with it and wonder why you're getting upset at your own children or why you're getting upset at your spouse or why you're driving 100 miles per hour getting home, or why are we sitting at a bar at 7 in the morning after work, kind of
Mhm.
stuff.
Well, and on that, uh, one of the things maybe worth exploring a bit is, the impacts of taking all those calls and you're not a robot there, but you kind of are. Like you have to follow somewhat of a script and you don't
Correct.
get to yell back at people when they're being stupid or saying something stupid or, they call in and they're like, how do I get to this place? You're like, what would make you think calling emergency services is the right tool for that? So you don't get to call anybody stupid, but
No.
it's so where's the outlet, right? And then when you're at home, you're dealing with kids or a spouse, and yeah, you can definitely, I guess, have those moments where you just kind of lash out or let everything out.
Yes, yes. Screaming at the windshield driving home. Um, but yeah, nobody realizes that dispatchers go through the same stuff,
Hmm.
because you're listening to traumatic stuff. You're not seeing it. And, I think that's where the assumption is that dispatchers are just answer phones,
Hmm.
and we should be able to handle it because we're just hearing it. But what people don't realize is that what you're hearing transmits into little pictures in your head, and it's worse than what is actually out there. And, you try to deal with it as best you can. Being a mom, I think that helped a little bit, but you know,
In what way? Like what, how
kind
does
of
that help?
dealing with it. Everybody used to call it my mom voice would come out when somebody was being extraordinarily uncooperative, or so I would
Hmm.
just say something in a tone of voice and to get them in to check on the phone. And yeah, they all called it my mom voice. And it was
Did you,
kind of fun.
that makes me think of like we've had dispatchers that are really good and they're very good at remaining calm. They kind of like present at one consistent level.
Hmm.
So no matter what's going on the call and how just insane it's getting, and they're like, the evaluator's adding comments to the calls, and now we have it where it's kind of updates in real time. So as the evaluator's punching things in, it's popping up. The
Right.
dispatcher is reading that off to you because you're either at the call dealing with people or you're driving there, so you can't really read all the time. And there's some dispatchers that just have like this really consistent tone, and it's
Hmm.
nice because it's clear. So you're getting that information, but also I find, especially when I was training new recruits, and they're already jacked up, and they're
Yes.
driving really fast, and they're just gripping the wheel, and you want as few distractions and few other people that are amped up because then they get more amped up. It's like when all these other people can be calm and present that way, it really does bring the temperature down for a
Hmm.
lot of people, especially the officers responding. So I guess it's maybe some of the parenting skills.
Oh yeah. I considered all the guys on the street my kids. So, you just kind of have to give them that little bit of a tone and put them back into line, and they're on the way. But you can always, and that's another thing too, even we could tell the guys on the street if they were stressed because of how
Yeah.
they sounded on the radio. So we kind of would um change how we talked
Hmm.
to calm them down. So it's not only just somebody calling in on 911 or a phone call. We're there to keep the guys on the street calm also.
Yeah.
And,
Did you find you had like any particular connection to those people then? So, outside of just you start to recognize voices, so you really start to
yeah.
understand how people work. Did you have any sort of
And
specific
I think
connection?
that's what I liked about being in a smaller agency, because we were
Mm,
all in one building together, so we saw the deputies after shift, or the ones that worked the precinct or the areas by dispatch would come in. So we got to know them. So it was more like a family atmosphere.
mm.
Rather than when I worked at Sacramento, we wouldn't see them hardly at all. And
There's
so
just
you
too many
didn't,
people.
yeah, the too many people, and where they had dispatch wasn't convenient for a lot of the guys to come in and visit. Because that's always a good thing to go in and visit your dispatchers and get to know them.
Mhm.
Um, because it gives you a better working relationship on the air. Unless, of course, we get mad at you, and then that's no good either.
You
But
know,
you get to know their little quirks and idiosyncrasies and how they like stuff done, and it builds a better working relationship, I think.
I think once you see someone face to face, and then if you get a chance to interact with them, it's harder to, I'll say hate them, but it's harder to get mad at them because, once you develop some sort of relationship, then you can kind of understand where they're coming
Hmm.
from or why they operate the way they operate. That's not to say that you still don't get annoyed with people or think some of the things they do are very strange,
Yes.
but yeah, that's something that I think it's a really good point that you bring up. Um, I think when you get those interactions, like what we do now, we have a lot of our specialized units will come in on our parades and they'll
Hmm.
talk to the members. And what that does is like at least puts a face to a name, so when I call them for a consult, uh, I'm talking to this person, and oh yeah, you came in on the parade and you talked to us about this, and it's like a familiar face, a friendly
Hmm.
face. So it just helps people connect a little easier. Maybe they aren't as hesitant to call, and I think that's
Right.
that's really important for even other areas of the service. It doesn't necessarily have to be police officers, but yeah, you have the dispatchers come in, or you have different units like our HR department. Lots of people have to use HR for different reasons. it's nice to know who you're talking to, and you kind of have that familiar face.
Oh, absolutely. And also part of the training with El Dorado County for their FTOs, which is their trainee deputies,
Hmm.
was to come in and spend one shift in dispatch as part of their training, which was really good because we could tell them what we needed and why
Yeah.
we needed it and how to do certain things and kind of get them more comfortable with the radio because um, when guys start out on the street, I think that's one thing that um, they don't like doing is getting on that radio because they're afraid the whole world's listening. But it's just like you and I right now, just talking,
Yeah.
And if they understood that it wouldn't be so scary to them.
You know what? Yeah, that's really good thing to mention. One of the things I really like that we do now is we're a little less heavy on the 10 codes and like all this formal language and
Mm,
jargon. And we basically just use uh, plain speech. Like it's just, hey, I need an ambulance. I need a tow truck. Whereas we like
right.
had 10 codes for every single vehicle type that we could
Oh my
possibly
gosh,
need.
yes.
And even when the channels, like now they're encrypted, right? But
Yeah.
before, as far as I know, like media and people like online were just able to kind of hack in and they could listen into what's going on a channel.
Oh
It was
yeah.
just, even then, I was like, you know what? They know what all the 10 codes are. Like you can just look it up online. Most
Oh,
cities, somebody has,
absolutely.
yeah, most cities, somebody has posted online your whole list of 10 codes. So it's not a secret anymore. But even then, it's like most of the stuff we're doing out there isn't a secret. It's out in the public
Uh,
eye.
exactly. And what's funny is Sacramento had 9 codes, which is different. El Dorado County had 10 codes, and then California Highway Patrol has 11 codes.
Like,
So
do they, so wait, they use 10 codes
so
and 11 codes, or they just call
yeah,
them 11
10 and
codes?
11 codes. Yeah, there it's like 3 different codes with 3 different agencies and try to come.
What the hell?
Yeah, so I went from one agency with 9 codes to an agency with 10 codes, so I kind of had to relearn my language there because it is like learning a new language. Um,
Yeah.
Penal codes and things like that. And so I learned that and when I was at El Dorado, we also learned the 11 codes because we worked with CHP a lot. So they would come up on our radios and talk to us. So that was we had to learn those too. So that
Yeah,
was
I could just
interesting.
picture everybody saying all these random codes, and it's like, just tell me what the hell you want already.
That's where kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna tell you because we got to get stuff done.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your experience that led to, we'll get to, I guess, the diagnosis of PTSD,
Right.
cPTSD, but when I read your bio, it sounded like it was more the one event, but I'm just wondering, like, was there a whole stack of events that you kind of just, is it like a progression when you, to get to the
Yes.
point where you had to leave? Or
Yes.
was it like truly just one massive event?
The last event was the straw that broke the camel's back, per se.
Okay.
So, um, when you're dispatching, you get traumatized. And when, just like when you're on the street working, you're a firefighter, a police officer, you have these traumatic events. And we have more traumatic events per day than people have in a lifetime. And so we need to deal with those. And with the way society was and still kind of is, we're told to suck it up, continue on, do your job. That's what we do. Not realizing that we have been traumatized and continue to be traumatized. So that's the cPTSD, the complex ones. It's
It's
not
like trauma,
necessarily,
trauma on trauma,
it's
or
trauma on trauma on trauma, just
okay.
piling up. Most people with cPTSD have childhood trauma, which I do too, but that's a whole other thing to unpack. But the being a dispatcher, you get all these things that happen to you. So in 2015, I had open heart surgery to replace an aortic valve. Not
Mm.
realizing that would cause all of my underlying PTSD, anxiety, and depression to come out um, and explode exponentially.
Like, is this at home or at work or
So
both?
yeah, so I had that in the middle of my career, so I have to have open heart surgery, and I'm off for 12 weeks, and I come back to work. Well, 3 months after I came back to work, all of this hit. So I had all this stuff hit, and then that's where I started my mental health journey. I went to see a therapist. I was in a group setting to do some group therapy. I took a lot of classes for anxiety, depression, work stress, you name it. I took these mental health classes to learn all the tools that I was going to need to be functional at work.
So if I can ask on that though, I guess two things. One is, is this stuff that you recognized or did somebody point it out to you? And
So
then
my lovely coworkers, who are just fabulous people, sort of had an intervention and realized something was wrong with me. And so they kind of pushed me to go get help, which I did.
can you
Um,
talk
but,
about what they recognized though?
um, I'm not sure what they recognized because for me, I was normal. I either that or I was in extreme
Hmm.
denial. But I thought I was doing fine. But what was happening was my anxiety level had gone up and I was just crying all the time, making little tiny mistakes that I shouldn't have been because I was so stressed out. I also had a supervisor at the time that wasn't the nicest person and micromanaged me, which, when you're going through a mental health crisis like that, being micromanaged will set you off also.
Yeah, just
Um,
someone constantly picking at you.
right. So you're not getting healing. So my wonderful coworkers said, something's wrong. You need to go get help now. So I did. And I have been in therapy since then. I'm still continuing to go.
Is
Um,
if I can ask on that too, so once you decided to go, what what did that process look like? So was
oh
there
my
even
gosh.
was anything offered? Is there anybody you could even talk to at the time?
So we have a program called EAP, which is Employee Assistance Program,
Oh, okay.
which you're allowed so many mental health visits a year. So I went through work to do that. I went, and it was really hard to find a therapist that would take it to begin with.
Really?
Once I got an appointment, I went in, and after that appointment, I never went back to see the guy. I'm sorry. um,
Sorry, guy,
um,
whoever you are out there.
Whoever you are, he's in Sacramento. Sorry. Um, but I realized I was going to need more than 3 visits. And so my health insurance covers mental health care. So I went through my private insurance to do that. And that's where I was able to take all these classes and go to a therapy group and have a therapist at the same time. So that worked out well.
Did you go? So, well, okay, I guess you said you went to the one there and didn't go back, but did it take a while for you to find one that you
Yes.
thought was right?
Yes. I
Yeah.
found one guy, so I finally found a guy and he was great, but then um so I'm with Kaiser Permanente in California and it's an HMO. And so they kind of transferred him to another site that is too
Oh,
far for me to go to.
yeah, yeah.
And this was before COVID, so I was driving to my appointments. So I thought we were doing well, but now I've got this great lady and I've been seeing her since 2020. So
Hmm.
she's great.
Do you think, do you just go to the kind of the one resource or is there like a bunch? And the reason I ask is because I think a lot of people get confused or lost in just the amount of stuff that's out there, at least
Oh my
now.
gosh, yeah.
I mean, you can go. yeah, I couldn't even tell you the difference between a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and then everything they all do. And then, you go, they all have like specialties, but they all say they can
Right.
help you as a first responder or someone associated to
Well,
that. And it's
what
just so
what we
much.
need to look for as first responders is somebody the that knows law enforcement. Um,
I hear culture a lot.
Unfortunately, a culturally competent is what they're calling
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So my therapist now, she doesn't or didn't know law enforcement when I first started seeing her, but she made it seem like it was not important, which was good.
Which
Where
part was not important?
that she didn't let me see. The first therapist I went to see with after the my initial guy, it I would sit with her for 30 minutes explaining the hierarchy of
Okay.
how law enforcement works.
Mm.
So there's supervisors, there's a manager, there's a captain, there's the sheriff, she didn't understand all of that when I would sit there and throw out these names and places while I was talking.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my supervisor did this and my manager did that, but the captain did this, and she got confused and she kept asking me. So I'd sit there for 30 minutes out of the appointment every single time trying to explain this to her. Where my therapist now, okay. She just, it just didn't phase her that I was speaking about all these people.
Mm.
She just wanted to get down and dirty down into what was the problem was. And finding somebody like that you don't have to explain our culture to, because it is a culture. Law enforcement is, and first responders are, it's a different breed of people.
Yeah. Well, and every workplace has its own culture. I think
Right.
it's the type of work that we get involved in and are called to do. It's unique in a lot of ways
Yes.
that the
Yes.
majority of the population doesn't do, doesn't see,
Right.
and frankly, they don't understand. So yeah, you do need to find somebody that's culturally competent is
Yes.
helpful.
And
Um,
and you also need somebody that um knows how to work with trauma,
mhm.
because like I said before, we go through two or three traumas a day where you know somebody only has one or two for their lifetime. So they need to be trauma informed, um or at least know where to send you to get the treatment that you need.
It's interesting that you bring up that number there, and you've mentioned a couple times like how often first responders, people involved in that world, are subjected to different traumatic events. And so there was a big study done up here by the RCMP, the National Police Federation, so their union, um, and some of the professors at one of the universities, so University of Regina, and they they put out the numbers, and I could send it to you later as well. I think you'd be interested in seeing this. So in the study, they talk about that exact thing that you've mentioned now, where normal everyday person might be subjected to like 3 or 4 traumatic events in their entire life. And that could be like a car collision. Maybe they got into a fight, like a physical fight once in their life. But when you look at a first responder and the people that work in that world, every day you could be subjected to almost 10 or more traumatic
Hmm.
events in a day. And then you do that over 20, 25, or longer uh, amount of years. I mean, that is insane when you actually
It's a
think about the
lot.
numbers. Yeah.
It's a lot.
So for you, so there was a recognition that it was like a whole bunch of things kind of built up over time. Can you talk about the one that I mentioned in the bio and that kind of set it everything over the top? Can you run
Right.
us through that event in particular?
Um, so we had just moved into a brand new building. Um, and moved. So we were uprooted, and here we go. And I had dispatched 3 units to a marijuana grow that somebody said that there was some suspicious people in. California, we can grow marijuana down here, but there's a thing the cartels try to get in, and so we thought it might have been a cartel member or something. It was a lot more than that when we realized after the fact, but so I sent them down there, and they basically walked into an ambush, and one of my deputies was killed while
Mm.
I was working the radio, and I heard the gunshots, and um, worked my way through that call. I was unable to get off of the radio until about 4 or 5 in the morning. So I worked that call until almost we caught the second suspect, and then I finally relinquished to my relief person who was standing behind me.
Uh,
Um,
can I ask you how long? So how long had you been working on that call? That's an interesting
so
aspect.
I dispatched it at about 1 o'clock in the morning,
Hmm.
and because I worked graveyards at the time, um, and he was killed. I'm thinking about 1:30 or so in the morning. But because we had brought in the SWAT team and because it was an officer involved shooting, it's everybody gets called in and we send out, detective, SWAT team. We call in the DA's office. We call in other agencies to come help us. There's a lot that goes on with an officer involved shooting, especially one where the deputy it was killed. Um, so I had lots of resources and things like that. In the middle of all of this, because I thought they had gotten him out. I didn't realize he had been killed yet. Um, we got a call from our patrol lieutenant at the time and said that because they had taken him to the hospital, somebody at the hospital that was not hospital staff posted on Facebook that a deputy had been killed. So the
Oh
patrol
man.
lieutenant had to call us to let us know at dispatch because he didn't want us reading it on Facebook and finding out that way.
Hmm.
So it was kind of done not by the book. We were supposed to have somebody come up and tell us, but it was the way the situation was running. So I'm in the middle of this call and getting SWAT team and trying to get these guys captured. I'm crying because I just found out that my friend, my coworker has been killed. So I'm, sobbing and trying to get out radio transmissions in the middle of all of this so that those guys that are out in the field don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I was calm. I was, got things done, but as soon as my foot came up off of that pedal, boy, I was I was a mess.
Yeah.
And and that's traumatic in its own, trying to keep that face to everybody so that nobody knows what happened until after all of this is done, and then we can deal with the emotions afterwards.
I think something that's worth noting is the complete pandemonium that can go on. So
Oh
you're
my
talking
gosh,
about
yes.
like you're trying to run a scene and all these other organizations get involved. So there's that. But even within your own organization, and I'm talking about my own experiences of, running those high risk calls, the critical incidents, especially being a supervisor now. And so I've been in charge of a number of them. The It is super stressful when things are not in control. So if you don't
Yes.
have the threat contained and they're running around a building or outside, there is so much going on and everything falls on one person, or at least it feels
Hmm.
like that. And I
Yes.
could imagine it would feel like that for a dispatcher too, when everybody on the street is asking you for stuff and someone, your boss is behind you asking you to do stuff. And then if you got multiple agencies that you have to get involved, at least I know for our dispatch, they have to get on a phone and call the paramedics or get on a phone and call fire. So they're trying
Hmm.
to do that. someone else is now like listening on the channel, taking care of things. But even within your own organization, you're trying to organize, could be air services, the dog,
Yes.
other patrol units, tactical unit, a whole lot of other people coming in. They're asking you for questions. And for me, as a person, like a field commander, being out there, all of them are coming to you while the radio's going. They're calling you. So you've
Yes.
got a phone going, you're typing on the computer to communicate maybe with dispatch because the radio's busy because other people are asking for you. It is an absolute shit show,
It is.
always to start.
It is. And
Yeah.
luckily, I had a great crew of gals working with me that night. So what we do is when we have a critical incident like that, we take everybody that's not involved in the incident that is on that radio channel and we move them to another radio channel. So another
Yeah.
dispatcher can pull them off. That way, I was just working the incident. Um, and then they were making all my phone calls. I was, taking my foot off the pedal and just yelling out, call this person, call this person. I think there at one point I just said, send me the world. Get everybody, because we had a county to the south of us that could have gotten to that location faster than any of our units could have gotten to it because it was way out. It was about 30 minutes from town, out in, you know, um, we were a very rural county. So they were out, way out. And so our closest unit was 30 minutes away. But luckily, I had sent
Mm.
three in the beginning. So I had enough right there. Plus, a dog unit was there out there when this happened. So that was good. And the sergeant had started out that way too. So there were four. But you're trying to have all this in your brain and you're trying to write it all down at the same time. I went and read it afterwards, and I didn't remember half of anything that was on there that I wrote.
Oh yeah.
It was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
automatic. Boom, there it goes. Because I wrote out um, an award for the air crew that helped us
Okay.
um, with Highway Patrol. They came out and they were on fumes by the time we got our second guy, and they checked it to the near because I knew where all the airports were. So we had it timed so that yeah, they got the second guy and they were 5 minutes away from the airport to go refuel. But they were on
Okay.
fumes and I was just so grateful for them because they were my eyes out there.
Hmm. Yeah, it is definitely like once you get some of those resources, they're a lot more helpful than somebody that might be on the ground who's dealing
Right.
with things. They're not going to be able to get you half the transmissions that you need and the information you need. So
Yeah, it
did
was.
so yeah, you were saying on the call that you know it comes in through who was it again that sent the message? It was somebody called, right? It was a lieutenant
Right.
called and said that this
A
member.
lieutenant called and told us from the hospital. Yeah.
Okay. So that is something that we obviously deal with more and more now, where just the speed of information goes
My
out.
gosh,
Now,
yes.
in Edmonton, we had two members killed just a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like how I know one of the biggest concerns when I was on the association at the time, like our police union, one of the concerns was like, well, okay, how do you tell the family before it's on Facebook or wherever,
Right.
or the media is putting it out? But social media always seems to be the biggest issue. So some bystanders recording, and then they start putting out bad information, or,
Yeah,
or it's a massive concern. So you want to get to the family as fast as possible. Uh,
exactly.
so yeah, I just wanted to make sure we mention that because it's a huge problem from what I saw, at least in the incident that I was involved in. You know, people try to do their best at making sure that those messages get out there, but yeah, it's not easy.
No, it's not. And you have these people and that will sit and listen to all the radio traffic at night,
Hmm.
especially or on the little apps that we have now. And post things on Facebook with completely wrong information.
Yeah.
And it's more of a hindrance, I think, than it is helpful.
Yeah, you know what? So, well, I was saying earlier, we went to these encrypted channels, so people aren't listening, as far as I know. And I don't know if anyone's hacked them yet, but we, when the information gets put out with zero context, that is the worst. And
It
it actually
is.
doesn't help anybody. Some people try to spin it as like accountability and stuff. It's like, no, you're doing just a
Well,
shit
and
job.
then it affects dispatch also because people will read that and then
Hmm.
call dispatch and ask, and it's like, "Are you involved? No, we don't want to hear from you. Go
Yeah.
away."
Yeah.
Stop calling in. We need to deal with this is going on right now. So, that one was bad too. We had those incidents where everybody's calling and asking and it's like, "I'm sorry, no. You
Yeah.
you don't get to know yet."
So, I want to ask you about how you deal with some of the stuff. Once you kind of recognized, okay, I need to actually, maybe even before you went for help, were you seeing any changes in your behavior when you look back now? Like, when I'm talking like, it could be anything from eating habits to not working out to drinking, smoking. Like, do you find, was there any bad habits kind of forming that you kind of
Yeah, I
recognize
had
now?
a little bit of an alcohol issue.
Mm.
My husband, my current husband, he's fabulous and, just said, "No, no more." So we
Yeah.
got rid of all the alcohol out of the house. I did smoke up until 2015, um, which I thought was actually calming, but apparently not.
Yeah. It leads to a different set
Um,
of problems, I guess.
right, yeah, yeah. But a lot of anger issues, um, that I can see now that I had. um, just popping off and yelling at people for little things that I shouldn't have. Um, but I think that was the most, the alcohol was starting to creep up and then the anger issues. Um, but after I started therapy, I've been able to finally figure out how to work it and do healthier things now rather than the non-healthy stuff.
Do you, how old would your kids have been at the time?
Oh my goodness. So my son was born in 1989. So I think he was already out of the house, yeah, when this happened, when my last incident happened.
Okay.
So, yeah, he would have been 30, so he was well out of the house, and all the other kids were out of the house too.
I was,
But
where I was kind of going with that is I was wondering, like I look at my kids, right, and they're 8, and it's like they notice stuff. It's pretty amazing, even at that age, just the things that they take note of,
yes.
and things they might say to you that kind of catch you off guard, and you're like, oh, damn, I didn't realize you were paying attention or were copying those words or whatever it might be. Um, so and it goes back to what you were mentioning earlier, where, just being a parent at the time of doing this job, it does change you and it
Yes.
changes how you operate in certain ways. But then you bring some of that stuff home and the kids are
Hmm.
there and they might pick up on it. So, did you get any of that, or did they, even if they're
Oh
out of the
yeah.
house, did they
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, so they
Well,
kind of mention it
my
now?
son was 5 when I started in dispatch. So, um he kind of grew up with me doing that. But the funny thing, I one day I noticed because I was majority on graveyard shift, so I would get up at 4:30. Kids would already be home from school because my mother was fabulous and she would pick them up and bring them home for me. Um, but the alarm would go off and I would wake up and then I'd hear a cup being set on the coffee table and then all the doors shutting.
Hmm.
And all the kids had gone to their rooms. They had made my coffee, put it on the coffee table for me, and then gone away. So I had no contact with them when I woke up. It was
Oh,
just kind
really?
of like they were afraid of which mom was coming out of that bedroom.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm glad you're in a position where you can look back on it and laugh at some of it and stuff. But I imagine that like that stuff is pretty hard to go through, and for some people, I mean, it definitely escapes their grasp, and they're not able to deal with it, or it leads to worse things. So, um,
Well, a lot of people don't understand shift work,
mhm,
and they don't understand that it's not a normal job. I mean, I worked Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays, and every other Saturday, 12-hour shifts for years. Um, and it was, let's see, my last year, my mother finally realized that, oh, you're sleeping during the day. And it's like, Mom, I've been working this for 20 years now. What the heck? So, it took time, and I couldn't do things with the kids because I worked an hour away, and things would come up a week before, and I can't get time off because, you need a month or two to get request time off. And so, it was difficult. I missed a lot of stuff with the kids. Um, and just not people not understanding and seeing all your friends kind of go away. Not really go
mhm.
away, but just kind of yeah, go away, because you're left with nothing because no, you can't go out with them and do the normal things that people do, that 9 to 5 Monday through Friday people do.
You know, on that, I find um, for the people that I grew up with or like friends I've had for a long time that are not in law enforcement, uh, the I guess, yeah, having them understand what you do is difficult because I find people are very interested. Like when I go to some function or, get together, everybody wants to the conversation always turns to your job and people want
Yep.
to know all these things. And then at least maybe it's the way I tell stories or that I explain what I do, but I don't really sugarcoat it and I don't sell it as, I'm not soft selling it. So once I start telling them, then they just start to look horrified. Like, and that's just what I did yesterday. And I'll tell
And
you about the day before. But, you know, it's very hard for them to grasp what
yes.
you do. Like it doesn't exist in their world at
Hmm.
all. So you might as well just be speaking a whole nother language. So even people that have known you your whole life or for the better part of your life, they kind of just, I don't know if they just, the something pushes them away a bit
Hmm.
where they're so when I go to things, and I've done this for the last number of years, I basically just won't talk about my job a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like if somebody has a specific question, sure, I'll explain something to them, or at least my point of view on it, and then that's it. But I
Yeah.
really don't get into like I really try to avoid being sort of any sort of center of attention, center of the conversation. Um, but I also changed just where I go and what I do. Like I'm not a big I like going out with my friends, but I don't like going to big social events where it's
Right.
like random people and I'm in these crowded things. It's not for me anymore. So it's affected how you kind of carry yourself day to day and the type of events that you might go to that you might find yourself at. So
Yeah.
and that's hard to explain if you go talk to a therapist or something. It's like, how the hell do you explain that to them? Again, they might not understand it culturally. So,
Right. The fact that you're going into this place and you're looking for the escape route before you're even there 5 minutes. Um,
yeah. When people say escape route, though, I think they always think it's like you're looking for danger coming in. Not
no, I'm looking
necessarily.
to run away.
Yeah, I just don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be around people when I'm
Yeah.
done my job.
You're at a party and it's like, okay, how can I make an excuse to get out of here? And,
Hmm.
you just don't want all of that around you. I understand that completely.
Yeah.
It's just, and I'm still like that. I don't like big, I don't go to the state fair. I don't go to movies anymore. I don't, nothing with large crowds because I feel so uncomfortable.
Hmm. Just as we're coming to the end of the time, I want to make sure to ask you just how you're doing today and what you do to kind of keep busy. Like we talked about, you've
Oh my
done
gosh.
a number of podcasts. It's pretty impressive the amount of podcasts you've been on.
I'm up to
Uh,
55 now. I'm so excited.
yeah.
Yes. So I started in 2022. I was in contact with the organization. Um, oh my gosh, now it's out of my brain, but it's a um, help organization for law enforcement down here in the States, and I will send that to you when I get it.
Yeah.
Um, a fabulous person named by the name of Mike Murata, and was in contact with him, and he was the one who put me on my first podcast. And he said, "You would do great at this," and I'm going, "Okay." So, and I was like, "Okay, I've been on one, and why aren't these people calling?" And I went, "Oh, I need to get out there and tell people I'm here." So that's
Yeah.
what I did. So I just get online and I look for podcasts, and it's targeted towards law enforcement and mental health. And now here I am. Um, I also do childcare for my 5-year-old grandson, and he
Mm.
and I have been together since he was a month old. Um, so he kind of helped save me from when my psychiatrist signed me off of work
Yeah.
back in 2020, and then I had him, so it kind of gave me something to get up in the morning to do. And he has an autism diagnosis now. So I am gone back to school with my grandson to
Wow.
kindergarten, and I've been his class aide since September now, which is a lot of fun. Um,
Oh, okay.
I've
Is that a
taken.
job? Like you get
It's
paid for
kind
it?
of like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't get paid. Well, I
No.
am a his certified respite care worker, so I do get paid
Okay.
for that. Um, and I'm a volunteer at the school, so I can do all the school things, kind of like a teacher's aide.
Hmm.
So we do that, and I have a job on the weekends that I go and I'm going 7 days a week now, which
Wow.
is busier than I was before, but it's healthier. Um, I don't have the stress, and I'm doing something that I like doing, and is, with the school, I'm not just working with my grandson, but I'm working with 18 other children in the class. So, I'm hoping that I make some sort of impact that way. And then on the
Hmm.
weekends, I work with older people, and I have adult conversations. So
Yeah. That's important. Yes.
it's,
As much as I
yeah.
like my kids, it's like, they can be annoying sometimes. So I just want to go see, hang around some people, have normal conversation. So, no, I totally understand.
So it's a lot of fun, and I have hobbies. I knit and I paint, and uh, just kind of do things around the house now, and um, don't think about dispatch much anymore, which is
Yeah.
good.
Well, where can people find you and check out some of the podcast appearances that you've done? I guess
I
Instagram.
usually put them on Instagram. My Instagram has my link tree on it.
Okay.
So I'm also on X, formerly Twitter. I do TikTok. Um, I don't try to contact people much on Facebook because that's more for family and closer friends.
Mhm.
But I am on the other platforms.
Okay.
I'm on Lemon 8 now,
What's
which
that?
is it's the I don't know how you would describe it. It's kind of like the X of TikTok.
Oh man, I'm so confused with that, like
I
half the
know there's
social
so
media
many
things.
platforms now.
I'm
Um,
I'm on a few and I'm looking to kind of pare that down because it's just like I don't know the difference between half of them. They
it's
seem like they're just the same thing over and over in a lot of
I
ways.
know it
So
is, but it's if I can get out and get this out to other people, then that's good. And I also do kind of uplifting videos on TikTok, and then I repost on Instagram and X, and and YouTube. So I'm
yeah,
also on YouTube.
okay. Well, hey, I want to say thanks for being on the show today. I will put up the links in the episode description. So I encourage people to check that out. Deb, thank you for being on the show here. It was a pleasure, and I'm glad we could talk about this aspect to law enforcement. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.